And we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40, 50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employers...
We have a very serious problem.
Extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it.
Yo, the Black Anglo-Saxon, your favorite neighborhood political scientist, and I'm coming back again with another video from the hood to the hill. Today we're gonna be talking about your boy Donald Trump. He has rebranded the Department of Defense as the Department of War. I'm not particularly against it. I think it's an opportunity for us. I really do. So go ahead, stick around, and make sure you finish all the way through. But hit the like button, hit the share button, please subscribe. I thank you and appreciate it if you do. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it so I can get y'all out of here. So today, like I said, Trump brands the Department of Defense as a Department of War. So U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Friday that directs the Department of Defense to be known as the Department of War. The move restores the name and agency last held in the 1940s, and according to the text of the order seen by the BBC, aims to project strength and resolve. The department will initially use the name as a secondary title, while the administration seeks congressional approval to make the change permanent. The White House is yet to say how much a rebrand would cost, but U.S. media expect a $1 billion price tag for the overhaul of hundreds of agencies, emblems, email addresses, and uniforms. The Department of Defense, which oversees the U.S. Armed Services, is the successor to the War Department, which was first established as a cabinet-level agency in 1789 and existed until 1947. So, this is one of those things, I'm going to go ahead and finish it, but I want to really jump into, a lot of people don't necessarily like this move, and I'm going to tell you, the reason that I like this move is because I think it puts the appropriate orientation on what America is really about. I think that a lot of us get lost in these ideals that America was built on democracy, America was built on capitalism, America was built on all of these ideals that it never really achieved. And I think having something named as the Department of Defense kind of puts that marketing piece, and I'm glad they framed it in that way, is because a lot of this is about marketing. And a lot of people don't like Trump is because he's breaking up the brand of not just whiteness, but the brand of what American culture is, what American ideology is. Because for a lot of us here inland, we think of America as, again, the people who are on defense, the creators of peace, the creators of democracy, and all of these ideals that perpetuate something that is a more sanctified, holy, pure, kind of version of ourselves. And that's really a distorted place and a distorted way to kind of frame it. Like I've always told people, and I continue to stand on it, like when you use certain methodologies, like we've been built on democracy, that's patently false. This is a representative republic. Unfortunately, our founders did a very good job in marketing and branding and figuring out ways to give the impression and liberty of being able to participate in what feels like a democracy, but never really giving up the reins. Because even when we talk about capitalism, America is more of a very complex hybrid system because it's always had centralized powers. It's always had these different mechanisms where the oligarchs have continuously been at the top. since the formation of the nation, they were just smart enough to allow for, how can I say it, an expansion of the cabinet, if one might put it. So you can matriculate up, and if you meet these particular requirements and ideologies, you can enter into the space, enter into the room. Because even if you're good, if you go through the whole process, you'll 9 times out of 10 end up becoming like us, which then makes you a useful tool to sell back to people the brand that we want to perpetuate. And so it's the same thing with this. It was the Department of Defense, and as you can see, that it was named the Department of War in prior terms. And that's because America has always been about war. America was always the Wild Wild West. America was always the bully on the block. Like, I think people have to put it and keep it in frame that this is a very, very young nation. We would not be here if we haven't bullied and pillaged a lot of different places, peoples, and nations to basically get to where we are at such a young age. And I think it's very, very poignant that we take this as an opportunity to push Donald Trump to create other mechanics and mechanisms that allow us to get back to our proper orientation of what this beast really is that we're dealing with. Because he's doing a lot of things that are unraveling, and I think it's going to put us in not a good place as citizens, but at least in terms of understanding what we're up against. So I'm going to go ahead back to the article. So it says, the Department of Defense, which oversees U.S., blah, 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 I read all of that. The executive order says the name Department of War conveys a stronger message and readiness and resolve compared to Department of Defense, which emphasizes only defensive capabilities. I think it's a much more appropriate name in the light of the world right now, Trump said in the Oval Office Friday, adding that it sends a message of victory. The order says that the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, will be known as War, blah, 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 blah. Speaking during the signing, Hegseth said that this name change is not just about renaming, it's about restoring and adding words matter, which they do. And we're going to get into that. Words do matter. And we're going on the offense, not just on the defense. Maximum lethality, not tepid legality. Maximum lethality, not tepid legality. They love these slogans, and I love it too, because you gotta listen to them. They telling you right now what it's all about. Not tepid legality. Violent effect, not politically correct, he said. God damn. And this don't rhyme. Woo. We're going to raise up warriors, not just defenders. The Pentagon's website changed to war.gov late on Friday. And with the headline, the U.S. Department of War, the responsibility of creating executive departments rests with the U.S. Congress. In August, Trump told reporters he was confident Congress would support the idea if support was needed. Democratic Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey said renaming was a childish idea, adding Americans want to prevent wars, not tout them. We don't want to tout them. The Department of War was established by George Washington. Oh my God, one of the founding thugs. Say it ain't so. But was rebranded following World War II. Hold on. Because there's a lot being said right here, right now. And it's blowing my mind. Because you got a Democrat, they about to lose their mind. Democratic Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey is talking about it's a childish idea, right? And yes, it might come from a childish place, but for everybody who might jump to hate this move, let's take the opportunity to take advantage of it. Because listen to what's being said. It was established by George Washington, and I always call them the founding thugs for a reason. Their thuggery is unmatched. The Department of War, but it was rebranded in World War II. And you gotta ask yourself, why was it rebranded in World War II? Well, what happened in World War II? or after World War II, or on the cusp in the minutia of World War II. Now, for all of those who might be watching, as much as him who shall not be named disrupted and began disrupting the powers of Europe through genocide as a European white-on-white violence, America, and largely the world, did not care about this community of said people who, that if we speak their name, will wreak havoc onto you. As a result, in that, some other people jumped in it that got us in it, us being Americans, because we didn't care. Because why would America care about what he who shall not be named is doing to the Jewish community? Because they were simultaneously inspiring he who shall not be named. But what was it that got us into the fight, people? What was it? It was no, it wasn't morality. I'm losing the blank. We got bombed, and that's the only thing we cared about. And I'm not going to get into World War I and all of that, because we've been on offense since we started our country. Well, not we, the founding thugs, George Washington, James Madison, etc., and the whole party of thugs, right? The Whigs. Japan, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, was then, as a result, coming on the back end of that whole World War II situation, got bombed by, if I remember correctly, a nuclear bomb. Something that after America did it, they had this council, right? Deemed that we shall never, ever, ever use nuclear weapons. Interesting. After I slap you in the face, I say, look, no more slapping in the face. We can't do that. That went south really, really fast. Even after that, we've entered a slew of perpetual wars. Like literally everything in the conversations right now are about, if for those who are paying attention, and this is where I'm on and I feel my leftists. This one is for y'all. Y'all get a W today. And I want y'all to not be mad. Don't be mad. Be glad that he's doing it. Because we can create a campaign against war easier than we can create a campaign against defense. Let it be all out in the open. This is why I say, just let them keep doing. Just let them keep going. Because in trying to make America great again, he's revealing what made America great. Us being demonstrative bullies. Us being thugs. Well, not us. Negroes ain't had nothing to do with that. To all my global leaders, if y'all could, I know y'all not, but we don't want no smoke. Just listen, and then not tepid legality, right? And this is what I mean by, y'all keep giving these people think pieces. They don't care about no legal. They telling you. And why, right? So it's two fronts. It's two fronts that's happening right now. And I'm just kind of running through what I'm consuming and everything like that, right? You got the geopolitical front where you got the global South and BRICS trying to de-dollarize and trying to usurp America, right? All because while America has been destabilizing other nations. So we've been on offense. We've had coups. Noam Chomsky have spoken to a lot of it. If y'all go read the book, Manufacturing Consent, and how media has become the fourth apparatus to government, it's a great read. A pretty boring one, but I like it. I like it because it hits home of everything right now in this moment, right? Because it's branding. It's all branding. And when you actually pay attention to what's being done, this is a threat. This is a threat to the global community, and it's a threat to you, the American citizen. Why do I say that? So we just had occupation here in DC, and there's always been occupation. I always make the joke, the J. Edgar Hoover building was right across the Wilson building, and walk to that jump every single day. And the J. Edgar Hoover was a thug, a heathen, a debaucherous man. Hunted us down like dogs in the street. And guess what? Nobody is ever better than I. But this right here, message to the people. He is taking troops to Chicago. And he's going to move these troops around, right? And think of this as practice. Think of this as practice. Because all of these bloated police budgets, defense budgets, military budgets, keep it in perspective. Because you can't have this conversation right here without it. It's coming full circle. They literally been trying to tell us. They're prepping and planning for everything that is taking place. What are you talking about, Devon? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Well, the job reports, garbage. And this is not a moment where everything is going to swing back. The economy, garbage. This is a moment where it's not going to swing back. AI, you have tech leaders who are now saying, oh God, we didn't realize that this was going to take hold like this. It's becoming sentient. It's creating an issue that we didn't account for. So we're dealing with all of these movements. We're dealing with the on-ramping of people trying to make walkable cities. Ask yourself, why are you trying to make walkable cities with everything in 15 minutes? And you're going through protocols and procedures of how to tactically move through cities as a result. Because America has always been on offense. Because the Department of War has always been here. Because if we really want to keep it 100, if we really want to keep it a buck, the FDA should be in the Department of War. Because they've waged war on our health. It's crazy that we got companies in bed with government agencies that allow them to put chemicals in the food that create not nuclear, chemical responses in our body that kill us and make us want more of the food that they are selling so that they can make more profit and then feed it into a predatory healthcare system that literally capitalizes on the system. So let's throw all of that into the Department of War. Because if we're having a conversation, if we're going to have it, to Department of Education, throw that into the Department of War, because you have ravaged education to such an extent that we done got no child left behind. You graduating people who can't even read. What does that mean? Now you got a privatized prison system that you attaching it to because you take and you build prisons as a result of the literacy rates and the PARC tests or whatever tests they call them now. And you have all of these models that feed into each other. So you could throw it into, what do you want to call it? The Department of War too? Throw it into the Department of War. It's all the Department of War. America is just one big war apparatus. And you're going to say, oh, this nigga is on conspiracy theory. And everything was a conspiracy theory until it wasn't. Because guess what? You could throw the NSA into the Department of War. Because wasn't the nigga running for it? Hold on, Edward Snowden is still running for his life. Damn, he told us. Just a piece of it, a little piece. But you can throw all of this shit into the Department of War. If you want to talk about how America has weaponized literally the government against its own people to extract, and like I said, going back to that oligarchic power room of influence, yeah, we've been here. We've been here. And they trying to get their reins back. They feel like they losing control. So it's like, yeah, we need that. And we're on defense. Hold on, what my man say? What my man say? My man say the eloquence, maximum lethality. Maximum lethality. God damn. Maximum lethality. Is this lethality for? God damn. Well, I mean, global communities already been experiencing our lethality. Just ask Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein, goddamn, ask African nations, all these U.S. nations that was getting U.S. aid. They've been getting the lethality. So are we ramping up the lethality on them? So are we doing this horizontally or are we doing this vertically? Questions that need answers. But I like it though. I like it. I like it. You want to know why? Because it's honest. It's honest. These have been the demons that we have been and again, for all my Democrats, for all my leftists, accept the moment, accept what is happening. Stop hitting us with this, oh my God, he's ruining the democracy, that he's ruining the Constitution, or he's ruining all of these principles that we live by, that we had. We never had none of that shit. Stop it. Never had none of it. It was marketing. It was branding. The reason they changed it is because they did so much fucked up shit. Leading the World War II, that they had to change it. Because we had to go into the new world, quote unquote, and all of these deals and all of these basically global cliques that came out of World War II. You know? And so I just want us to keep that into mind. I just want us to keep that into mind. Right? And if you're here with me still, hit the like button, hit the share button, because I'm about to go ahead and I'm going to drop this little video because I want you to, I want y'all to see how, I always say, take and separate government and politics, because the executive offices are not government. Government are just regular, average, everyday people. What's happening is the ideological framework of the executive bodies are imposing themselves. But that ideological framework comes from these think tanks, from these billionaires, from all of these different people. I talked about on the last video with the gerrymander about how all of this money is being flooded into through donors. It's interwoven space. That's why I always say fascism has been here. Because it's co-opted from the iteration of it. I say iteration, inauguration. Let me go ahead, because I'm gonna show y'all this dude. He's like a wealthy owner. Let me see, what's his name? He talking about unemployment, and it's a real estate guy, Tim Gurner. And it is pretty interesting. I came across it and I was like, what the entire fuck? Because good grief, I ain't never heard nobody speak like this a day in my life. Oh my God. So here we go with this. Let me go ahead and play this real quick for y'all.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40-50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employers,
We have a very serious problem.
is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic. that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue.
Just listen to what this man is saying. Less arrogance. Because people expect and want to be treated with some level of dignity within the working class, right? And I would say, don't be mad at what's being said. I'm not saying don't feel a certain type of way about it, but what I will say is it is not going to pay to be mad, because this is how they feel. And I wanted to show that because he's also saying that governments around the world are doing this and participating in this practice to work in tandem on the behalf of the asset ownership class. And it's important because people always ask and people always talk about Donald Trump. And this is why I tell people it is ecosystems, 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 ecosystems. Because not only do you have a number of people who operate and think like this, they're in different pockets. And it's important because people always want to just talk about the political body. And it's like, it's become so ancestral that we have to really be careful about who we're empowering, and we are actually given the reins to. And when I say given the reins, I'm talking about platforming, I'm talking about creating avenues or opportunities like this for people to be more impactful with their ideology. Because when you speak at these events and you get all these speakers fees and you get all these accolades, that's what makes this stuff pervasive. Because whether you like him or not, people respect this man. Whether you like him or not, he probably got the ears of some governors, some electeds across the globe. I want to say this man is Austrian. But it's important to go back into the conversation about the Department of War, is because we can throw the Department of Commerce in it too. Let's just go ahead. Because, see, Negroes, we've been having war waged on us by the government since day one. So, for me, it makes sense that it's called the Department of War. They've been on offense since day one. America hasn't really been, only thing America has really been defending is self-interest and greed. Let's just keep it a buck. I love America. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. I love America. But at the same time, it's like a parent that's, straight booty meat. I love my parent, but they booty meat in terms of, it is what it is. Did a crash bankrupt job. And I think we can hold both of those at the same time and be respectful. But saying that Donald Trump is taking away something or defiling something that never really existed, I'm really tired of hearing it. The Department of War is the truth. 100%. This is what we do, this is what we've been about, and this is what we always going to be about. And you know what? On my run earlier, I was thinking about it. I got an assignment because people always talk about solutions, and I got a million of these in my head that I be thinking about while I be running and everything. So we know, right, that Donald Trump's, one of his biggest weaknesses is the ego and the legacy. He has a real huge thing about ego and legacy and what he means to the cultural ethos of America, right? Hashtag Trump won't do it. And let's get real creative, right? These have to pinpoint and attack the ego, the legacy. So, like, for example, Trump won't release the Epstein files, or Trump won't do blah, blah, blah. Trump won't give us reparations. But things that advance our cultural capacity, things that advance our things that advance our movements, and things that help us, because he has a wrecking ball. Let him just wreck more stuff. Just hashtag it. Trump won't, boom, 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 boom. Trump won't, I bet Trump won't. You can pick one or the other. But let's take these moments and actually pinpoint what he cares about, and see if we can get something from it. I'm not saying it's a sure end, but I think if we were to do it and it take off, right? Trump is human. And he loves ego. He's a man of ego. He's a man of spectacle. We could get him to wreck some stuff that he might not even understand that he wrecking. It's like this. That's what I'm saying. It's like this. Department of War, we need that. That's good. Keep telling us the truth. But hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe. I thank you. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all like the Department of War versus the Department of Defense? Y'all think it's a good branding deal, good idea, or is Trump tripping? Did he get it wrong again? All right.